castle and we have so many forts. But the reason school children ask me, how come we don't have forts and castles here in Nigeria? I said the reason why we didn't have castles and forts like they built in Ghana was because the forts and castles that were built in Ghana were not built to keep our ancestors or enslaved people. They were built to keep the gold. That was the main purpose. But after a while, human being became gold that they were keeping in such structures. But everywhere they went to, even in Angola and other places, they built barracons. What is a barracoon? A barracoon literally means a slave cell. A barracoon is an embankment where enslaved people were kept while waiting for the arrival of the European slave ship. Now, here is a typical example. This is a barracoon waiting for the arrival of European slave ship. This is a river. On the other side is called the point of no return. So the Atlantic Ocean is on the other side. The ocean is on the other side. So while they are waiting for the European slave ship to arrive, they need a place to keep them. They need an hotel, a terrible hotel. So this becomes that horrific hotel that the ancestors were kept while waiting for the arrival of the European slave ship. That is the meaning of a barracoon. And anywhere you find a barracoon is always close to the sea or to the river or lagoon, because most times the ancestors are taken away through canoes or boats or through the big ships. In Ghana, at the Omena, as soon as they leave the castle, they enter into the boat. The big ship is on the other side. But here, you first enter a boat that crosses you to where we call the point of no return, where the ancestors will enter the big ship that eventually takes them away to the Americas. We call this Brazilian barracoon because the person who owns this compound, Chief Siriki Williams Abbas, now look at his name, Siriki Williams Abbas. Williams Abbas. Siriki was a chieftaincy title. He himself, now the irony about him was that he was a slave that was taken away. Some argue that he was taken when he was 8. Some say no, he was taken when he was 6. Some say he was taken when he was 11. 6, 8, 11 means that he was taken when he was a young boy to the Americas. His first owner, slave owner, was an Islamic scholar and a slave trader by the name of Abbas in Dahomey, who eventually sold him to an European by the name of William. You see, he bear the name Abbas and Williams. A slave don't have a name. They bear their master's name. And unfortunately today, his descendants still bear those names as their family name. Some bear Siriki Abbas together as their family name. Some bear just Siriki as their family name. Some bear Abbas. Some bear Williams Abbas, his name, as their family name. So there in Brazil, his owner, now, Mr. Abbas in Dahomey sold him to an European. William in Brazil realized that there's something unusual about him. He sold other enslaved people, but kept the young boy in his house. When the young boy became a young man, he called him and said, "Look, I want to give you your freedom, but I want to have an agreement with you to work for me." And he responded by saying, "Sir, I'm your slave. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you." Through Mr. Williams and the friends of Mr. Williams, this man learned how to speak English, Dutch, Portuguese, and Spanish, which was unusual for a slave. Mr. Williams taught him how to read and write. And you know that it was illegal for you to teach us how to read and write. You may go to jail for it. The man treated him well. So as a young man, he decided to give him his freedom, but like I said, on the condition that he works for him, which he gladly accepted. So it was his owner in Brazil who sent him back to West Africa, because Mr. Williams decided not to come back to Africa, but he needed someone to represent him here in Africa, and he sent this man. When his father and mother gave birth to him, his real name was Faremi Lekun. His father's name was Fagbemi, but an enslaved person don't have a name. But his real name was Faremi. So maybe we should call him Faremi for the purpose of our conversation. So he returned back to West Africa. When he first came back, he settled down at the colony of Lagos, that area that we call Lagos Island today. As I'm talking to you, he still have descendants there. Later he left Lagos Island to come and settle down here. Don't forget, people argue, school children say, "Oh, this man, when he came back, he had the experience of a slave. Why did he continue to work for his master here? I said, look, we were not around that time. He had a choice to make. But don't forget that Mr. William in Brazil will not just let him go. Definitely he will send other men to be with him. And some of the men that will be with him may be agents of Mr. William from Brazil himself. But the bottom line is, he did the biddings of his master. He left Lagos Island to come here, and he built the barracoon, supported by Mr. William and the Brazilians. That's why this barracoon is called Brazilian Barracoon of Siriki Williams Abbas of Badagry. There are 40 rooms in the compound. In each of the rooms, they kept 40 human beings. And people argue, how come 40, 40, 40? Well, probably around that time, it makes their calculation easy. And they were not keeping men and women together. They separated the men from the women, and children were kept with the women. You know, our mothers, being who they are, they take care of the children. So people also argue, oh, the men and women that are kept in the barracoon, do they copulate? Do they sleep together? No, they don't touch each other. The experience in the barracoon was so terrible that the urge for them to touch each other will not come. Because in the slave cell, we are going inside and you see what a slave cell looked like. They kept 40 human beings in a room. They urinated on themselves. They excreted on themselves. When the women have their menstrual cycle, they did it in the slave cell on themselves. Where would the urge for them to touch each other come from? So how did they get those kids? How did they get the children that are with them? Some of the women, they were captured from the interland. Some of them were already pregnant before they were being captured. Some of them, while washing their clothes in the stream, they are with their children. They have their babies strapped on their back. So our mothers, being who they are, anywhere you take them to, they go with their kids. That's how we have children. And some of them actually gave birth to kids in the barracoon. But here, I cannot speak for any other place, but here, I agree, the barracoons, there were no record of them copulating. Of course, it's possible that the slave owners, the enslaved people, owners, it's possible that the overseer, now the person in charge of the barracoon was referred to as the overseer. It's possible that the overseer will have raped the sisters over there, it's possible. But the enslaved people in the barracoon, there are no record of them copulating or touching each other. Because the experience in the slave cell in the barracoon was terrible. So there was no urge for them to touch each other. I'm just trying to explain to us, because people argue, how come they have children? Of course, they gave birth to kids here because some of them were already pregnant. And the mothers, when they are captured, they go with their kids. That's how we have to. So we go inside.